Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Tomorrow. I'm Mo Param, and we may be looking a little different today because I'm in studio here in Cartersville, Georgia, and my partner Andrew is in South Dakota. What's going on,
Yeah,
brother?
not too bad. You doing all right over there, Mo?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, holding down the fort here.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, listen, you want to hold down a real fort, you got to come here to South Dakota because this is like, man, this is God's country. It's beautiful, gorgeous. You might be a little angst because I mean we are straight in the sticks, okay? I mean, in the middle of nowhere. Actually, let me do this. I hope maybe this won't ruin it. I'm gonna do a nice little twist here. All right, so look, you can see the only thing here
Oh,
is
wow.
this house we're staying
Look at
in.
that.
That's it. Okay.
Oh,
In
my
the
gosh.
middle of nowhere. Okay. Talking about a need
Yeah.
to, step away, relax, and get away from the busyness of life. This is a good place to come. Highly recommend it. Oh,
What have you done so far?
well, so we're on a kind of like the American road trip right now. So we're in we came up through Tennessee into Kentucky and then into let's see, Missouri, and then Iowa, and then over to Nebraska, and then straight north into South Dakota. We've been in South Dakota. Most of that was just like, let's get to South Dakota type of thing. Now we're here. We've spent 3 days in South Dakota. We've done Custer State Park, Mount Rushmore, um, Crazy Horse. That's nuts. They're actually still constructing on that sculpture, I guess is what you would say. But yeah, man, last night we took a drive through Custer State Park, ran into, I'm gonna say, a herd of like 200 buffalo, wild buffalo. Um, we saw an elk last night, loads of deer, pronghorn. Oh man, it's just it's just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Got to do it, man. Got to come with me sometime.
We got to do it. Amber's been asking me for a while.
Well, Amber probably remembers the days when we were little kids, headed, Dad used to take us out west every year in the station wagon. You know what I mean? Like throw everybody in the station wagon and just hit the road. And so she would enjoy it, bring back good memories.
Well, we're on part three of the anxious generation, and I know I'd be anxious if I was in South Dakota with all those animals we were just mentioning. But no, I think this has been a good conversation so far. And in chapter three, he discusses the discover mode and really kind of hints on why the need for risky play is needed in one's childhood development, and how that plays a very crucial role in the overall development of kids nowadays.
Yeah, I was. It's interesting 'cause I don't know if you saw what I put a post out there on our Facebook and Instagram page, and it was really derived from this chapter. Okay, so we get here and we're in this beautiful country, and the boys immediately are reading through um, how at an Airbnb they have like a notepad or something laid out where other guests have stayed, and they're journaling a little bit about their experience, and so the boys are reading through, and one of the first messages that they read is basically about a hidden lake that's close to this area that we're at. So you could imagine, the boys are like, "Hey, we got to go find it." Well, we're in the middle of nowhere. We have very little cell service, which, by the way, full disclosure, the video's a little wonky. That's that's why. And right behind me is this massive, rock mountain. And so, needless to say, the boys they're wanting to go. They're wanting to climb the mountain. They're wanting to go find this lake that's like, I don't know, a mile away or something like that. And I'm what I had wrote about in the post was just like, reading this chapter, my first gut was like, no, you're not going. We're in the middle of nowhere. I can't see you. I can't protect you. I can't. keep my eyes on you type of thing. You're going to stay right here. And then, I thought, let them be boys, let them go. It's fine. Let them explore. And, like he talks about, let them, adapt to that discover mentality and just go out there and, live a little bit.
Yeah, the discover mentality is huge because I look at it as the point in life where you are exploring opportunities, and you're still being cautious, right? You're not throwing caution into the wind, but you're experiencing life and looking at all the opportunities that are available and in front of you. And it may
Mhm.
cause a little harm, right? There may be some cuts, some bruises. Maybe one of the boys falls down the hill, or cuts his arm or whatever it may be. But it is that opportunity for their brains to be able to just be able to explore and expand and discover what's out there. And contrary, there's that defend mode or defense mode where you're always on defense. You're not really able to enjoy or explore opportunities ahead of you because you're thinking about the what ifs. What if something happens? What if something negative happens? Not even positive. Not if something positive happens. It's always about the negative. And he
Right.
compares it to animals, right? Like a lion is always on discover mode, and he
Hmm.
walks confidently because he is looking for opportunities to hunt. He's the predator, but then the prey, the bunny rabbit, the squirrel, the deer, are always on defense mode, looking cautiously, waiting for that predator, making sure that the area is protected and safe, and then they look for the opportunity.
If you had to put yourself, if you had to tag yourself to an animal that you just mentioned, what is Mo?
Ah, I would say in certain circumstances I'm one of the other. When I'm in my zone, something like in a meeting with clients, in a room where I know everyone, and if I'm talking about a topic that I'm fairly well versed in or interested in, I'm in discover mode, right? Because I'm pretty
Mhm.
confident and I want to learn, and I'm pretty good there. But in certain areas, certain circumstances, like if I'm in a room where I don't know anyone, I'm just in a corner, just like waiting to find that first person, or waiting for someone to like introduce themselves to me, and then I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I guess like the situation or your surroundings or whatever the scenario is, right? You might be a bit different. I would like to say that I'm like, manly a lion. If my wife was sitting next to me, she'd probably say I'm like a squirrel. If something pops up, I'm like, "Whoa, what?" I'm a jumpy type of guy, which is not good when you have three boys because you live life on the edge. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I can't even walk into my bathroom and be protected because there's someone always standing around. They're like, once they figured it out, it's game over. I I like the way he started the book, Mo, because you know, he basically said America missed it in the '90s on two occasions. Like they made two committed choices and they missed on both of them. I think the first one that he was talking about was how we committed to this, and we've talked a little bit about this, but we made a commitment to begin to overprotect our children, to be overly present physically in their life to the extent you think, well, you can't be overly present. Oh, but you can because you're as an adult, obviously we naturally lose that play-based childhood the more we mature and obviously some of that should happen. But you lose that, and so you're overly present in your child's life, which means they don't get to experience this childhood play-based, adventurous type of raising. And um, and then on the other coin, we completely protected them in the virtual world, right? And when they start to break down this discover mode, I was reading, later in this chapter, and there was a part of this is just like leaped out to me, okay? And he took I'm going to say he took kind of the focus off of technology for a moment, and he placed it on a decade predominantly like mid 80s to like mid 90s. And what he was talking about is, during that season of life, we saw a massive influx of women going into the workforce. Okay. And I get that everybody has their different perspective, and opinion, on women and working, and or women being at home raising a family. And I'm not going to lead into any direction there. I think I've got plenty of friends that have wives that are super successful, and they are able to juggle both. um my wife is a stay-at-home mom predominantly, and I was raised in a house where my mom stayed at home. So, and I know in the world we live in, not everybody's privy to that. Life is expensive. And but when you look back about in regards to effects on children, what he brought to life I thought was interesting. And what he said was, look, late 80s, mid 90s, you see this massive move of women going into the workforce. When that happens, what happens to your children? Well, your children are going to school. Then instead of riding the bus and going home, they're going to after school programs. And then when they get home, this was interesting. When they get home, they're actually spending more time with their parents. Okay, so he said, along with this increase of women going into the workforce, you also see this like massive increase of focused time with mother, father, and child. And so you think, well, that's got to be a good thing. The problem is you got these exhausted parents who have been working all day, two of them. They come home. The kid may, I'm just throwing an example out there. Kid may wants to go, want to go outside, but it's 6 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock, it's after school programs. And the parents are like, no, we haven't seen you. Stay here. You need to stay around here. And then as a result, they don't get to go an adventure, and it shuts down that discover, you know, experience. And then the second point I want to make there, and I'm interested in your thoughts. The second point is along with that season of women going into the workforce, and this is what the authors kind of play in this scenario out. He also mentions that because of that, there's a lack of relationships developed in communities, because no longer are the women in his explanation at home able to invest in their neighbors and build relationship in the community, where at that time was so valuable because of the support of community raising children. Now that women and men are both in the workforce, we don't even know our neighbors, therefore we don't trust our neighbors. And because we don't trust, we create this bubble of fear. And it just and I when he was going through that, man, I was like, that there's a lot of truth to that. I think everybody can say, maybe the whole women working, non-working thing is not really the point. The point is we live in a world where we don't know our neighbors. Our kids are in structured programs all the time, and they have very little time to go and discover.
Yeah, yeah, no, it goes back to the overprotectiveness of kids and during that era, and how that transition has changed. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I remember a season of my life where I was roaming the streets. I was just having a good time, running around, hanging around, playing, having a good time with friends, and discovering. And I can't remember exactly what point it was in my life, but I did fall into the after school program where it was, well, after school, we're going to, instead of, walking home and run and in playing, we would go to an after school program for about 2 hours. And then at that point, then you go home, and then your day's basically over at that point, because now it's dinner, it's hanging out with sister and mom, and then, kind of shutting down for the night, rinse and repeat, start over the next day. And yeah, if the idea of having, a two parent house, a parent staying at home, it's not always about, always being there physically involved in the children's lives. It's there's other things around the house that need to be done, but we can't remove the fact that kids need to be kids, and they need that experience where they are able to adapt and learn and play and learn social skills with each other and not being around adults all the time. And I don't know exactly when that changed or why it actually changed, where we came to a society where we thought that the outside world was so dangerous that we had to protect our kids and leave them inside the house. Like, what actually happened? I don't know. Where it became such a shift. And, it's not just a US thing. He made it to a point where this is almost like a global transition where as a society overall, we came to a point where outside is no good for kids. And structure that doesn't involve kids. I think it was chapter 4, because we're going to talk a little bit about chapter 4 too, where even schools banned or disallowed, flag football without adult referees or without adult officials. Like, when did that shift come where kids aren't allowed to play by themselves without the fear of them hurting each other? It came to a point where children became very fragile, or the idea of kids became fragile, that we need to protect them at all costs. And protecting them at all costs meant that we're going to put them into an area and put these devices in their presence where they're at home, maybe they're by themselves, and that is safe because they're not exposed to what's outside, not knowing what the exposure is in that social media realm or that technology realm, not just social media.
I don't know, I don't know either. I feel like for my childhood, we didn't my mom was very open, very lenient. You and I have talked about that. You had a very unique upraising, um and obviously you had loads of freedom at a young age, much because of your situation. You were kind of thrown into the world with a tough situation. Your mom was doing all she could do to provide, and so by default you had a lot of freedom, and definitely that contributes to your stability and all that makes you who you are today. And I feel like for my situation, we were very much similar, obviously different scenarios, but similar in regards to the freedom that I had as a kid. And Mo, I don't know. I'm assuming it's the just the awareness, probably. And sometimes awareness, um, we think, I think, that awareness of a particular issue or challenge, and what I'm thinking of is like, you know, child abuse, um, these predators that are out there, that sometimes just being aware and conscious that that exists sometimes creates this false narrative that because there is a predator in the world, that now all of a sudden predators are everywhere. And just like I'm thinking about the scenario, the area that I'm in right here. I can see hundreds of yards. It's waist high grass, and it is absolutely beautiful and stunning. Watching the kids walk through this grass while I'm sitting inside looking out the glass, I'll be honest with you. I'm like, hey, get closer to the house. That's what I'm thinking. But when I'm able to be here, to be present, and to be aware after a few days, I'm like, it's okay. Go, you know? And so I think sometimes, we went through the 90s, we get into the 2000s, the internet is obviously rampant. Um, News outlets are, flooding data and flooding stories into our minds, if you will, and we as parents just kind of dropped the ball. I mean, we really went through a massive the whole rewiring, and this whole abandoning our roots of how we raise kids for hundreds, thousands of years. Really, when you're thinking about it, it's like, man, we did it. We really abandoned. Um, what we were so, comfortable with for thousands of years. Know your neighbor, create friends and relationships that go deep so that, hey, if my son is at Mo's house, two houses down, and he acts like a fool, Mo can, pop his butt or put him in the corner or jump his tail a little bit, and I'm okay with it because I know Mo. It just doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't.
And I think also I think the protecting on a physical side is easier to understand, right? Because you mentioned looking at the grass waist high, and you're telling your boys get closer because you're protecting them on a physical manner. And I think that overprotectiveness that we came that shift that happened, I give parents a little bit of grace at that point. I don't think they knew what the emotional, the mental side of what they were doing and the impact it was having, right? They could see physically, I'm going to protect my child, and they're safe here physically, not knowing the ramifications of what it can do emotionally. Um, he mentions the physical, physic, a psychological immune system, which is the ability for a child to handle, process, and get past frustrations, minor accidents, teasing, exclusion, perceived injustices, and normal conflicts. And that's the psychological effects and impact of being able to have to play without adult supervision, is that you're able to handle these instances that you're going to face as an adult. But if you remove them from the environment where they can actually overcome those instances, then it just has a lasting toll on them.
Yeah, you're right. The whole conversation about anti-fragility, if I is that did I say that right?
Fragility,
Anti-fragility?
yeah.
Yeah, and psychological immunity, it's, the whole idea that, kids need to be bumped around a little bit to become strong, and that's true in so many different areas of life. You need to be, and obviously our common belief in how we're here, why we're here, what we're doing here on this earth. All of what we do as people, we're strengthened oftentimes by being knocked down. You know, um, and raising children, I think you're right, Mo. I think it's true. Matter of fact, it was so funny to me reading or seeing the images in the book of the playgrounds
Oh yeah.
back then, and I was like, that's totally true. Like I remember going to McDonald's in Cartersville, Georgia, for my fifth or sixth birthday, and this was on what, MLK Drive and Highway 41. In the old playground had this like 12 foot, in my mind it was 12 foot, could have been taller, 12-foot metal slide. you know you ran up the steps, no like major guardrails, right? You're running up these metal steps, the sun's beaming down, so like if your leg touches it, you're burned for like, third degree burns or something. um, you're landing on some, highly probable splinter territory, which is like some old crushed up wood. You're hitting no rubber mat. Okay. And then you got these old other things you're playing with. And I'm like, God, playgrounds back then, they were so much fun, but they definitely offered that level of risk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is that not true? When that picture
Oh
when I saw
yeah,
that picture, I was
totally.
like, "What happened?"
Yeah, no, those playgrounds were intense. Were intense.
Yeah,
When did safety become necessary? When did
right.
overprotecting become a necessity? Or why it became a necessity? Um,
Well, and the truth is, we I think it all comes from a good heart. Parents, they have a deep desire to raise their children basically perfectly. and and to do that, there's all these different things that I think parents feel the responsibility to do. They see other friends do it, they read about it, they watch YouTube videos or whatever out there, they get ideas, and they're just trying to do it all. You know what I mean? You got families that are trying to bust their butt and make a good living to give their kids a life that maybe they didn't have. So they're grinding at work. They come home. They're trying to get their kids on a routine because they think a routine's healthy for them physically, and they want to eat at a certain time and do that. But then the kids want to play ball and they want to, get them in the sports and let them be the best athlete they can be. And it's just I think it all comes from a good heart. But when I look back over, you know, what I think Amy and I have done well, and also what we have totally come up short in, it all came from a good heart. We just missed, sometimes we miss the basis of what we are to do as parents.
Even that example he makes of kids' calendars are being filled with activities, different clubs, because they want to build this college resume, right? So
Mhm.
you are you're eliminating some of the playtime because we want to fill it in with other activities that can boost their ability to look more attractive to colleges and college admission. And so, yeah, like you mentioned before, coming from a good nature, right? What parent wouldn't want their child to have the best opportunity to get accepted to the college of their choice by, joining all these different clubs? But again, you've eliminated that ability for them to just be kids, and now they're working towards this adulthood or this next stage of transition of their lives where they're missing out on where they are now.
I want to read, and maybe, I'm sure we'll come to a close with this. And this kind of goes into chapter 4. And um, I'm trying to find the story, Mo, of the young girl. I want to say she was 14 years old. Here it is right here. And this is the gentleman. This is what he says. I'm just going to read it. Isabel Hogbin, a 14-year-old girl in Rhode Island. She wrote an essay, and this is what she wrote. I was 10 years old when I watched porn for the first time. I found myself on Pornhub, which I stumbled across by accident and returned to out of curiosity. The website has no age verification, no ID requirement, not even a prompt asking me if I was over 18. The site is easy to find, impossible to avoid, and has become a frequent rite of passage for kids my age. Where was my mother? In the next room, making sure I was eating 9 different colored fruits and vegetables on the daily. She was attentive, nearly a helicopter parent, but I found online porn anyway, and so did my friends. When I read that, man, I was just that, and I think that's the point. Parents, this young girl who wrote this, first off, it freaking pisses me off. I can't even, I just want to strangle some of these, all of them actually. That our children have to deal and fight through the possibilities of exposure to these types of stuff. It's freaking absurd. But anyway, here's a mother who's doing all she can, in her mind. She's cooking dinner, she's working all day, she's worried about the health of her child. She's doing a lot of good things, but we just got to we can't miss it, you know because it's what I tell my boys at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. The things that you expose yourself to will be the demons you oftentimes fight for the rest of your life. 100%. Yes, a person that smokes, that's dealing with emphysema at 60, 70, 80 years old, struggling, have been smoking all life, fighting it. They started it when they were 10, 15, etc. Porn addiction, alcohol, whatever. It starts at such a young age, and when I read that, it just infuriated me, but it's true. We parents, so many parents are doing a heck of a job. We just come up short by not really, understanding the reality of this issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, the part of her story that really resonated was that rite to passage, right? So it was just like it was almost like a natural transition that her and her friends felt like, they were exposed to, and it was, this is what we do. This is what kids do. This is what my friends are doing. And it was almost like she's stepping into the next stage of her life. So when I hear the rites of passage, that's what I thought of. And you're right, it goes right into chapter 4, which is really the puberty, right? That age where he brings the point where puberty makes the brain more malleable or plastic. And he starts off with saying that at that age, it's your pubescent mind is a stage where you're constant. It's the prime ages or stage of your life where the input that are being impressed on are, like you said, very sticky, like the decisions of smoking, right? You look at the 60-year-old who's battling diseases from smoking, usually could lead to the decisions that he or she made when she was 15 years old. So he says puberty is a period when we should be particularly concerned about what our children are experiencing, because their brains are at a point where it is so impressionable, and it leaves lasting impressions on their lives. They're going through different pruning, and he used the words malienation. I hope that's the right way you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Where your brain is eliminating neurons or parts of their brains that they're no longer needing, because they need to be rewired for this new stage that they're entering into maturity. And so the experiences that you experience during that pubescent years are very crucial.
Yeah, this whole idea that he talks about with the experience blockers,
Oh
you
gosh,
know,
yes.
it is. You're right. It's there is a passageway that is necessary for the development, um, physically and obviously psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, for our children. And that passageway begins, I feel, begins so much earlier than it used to. Just, I don't know if it's the food that we eat or whatever, but I feel like these children, some of them are going through puberty at such a young age. But maybe it's always been that way. But they're starting that, opening up that door, starting that journey young, and long before they've been able to have the experiences that they should have in the different areas of life. And and also because of the experience blockers that we've put in place, which are things that we allow as parents and things that we don't allow as parents that we've been talking about. So it's Mo, it's a tough call, man. It really is, to to be a parent, and have some grace for yourself, because you're never going to get it perfect, and
Right.
and that's okay too. Having some transparency. Oh my gosh, I got a chickmunk right here next to me. Little guy. Yeah. Anyway, so just I think if putting it out there with our show, working through this book for our clients, and so many that have come along with us to work through this book. The idea here is not to be perfect. The idea is to be honest with yourself as a parent. What is it that you're trying to do for your children? What type of life are you trying to image in front of them? Um, and being conscious and aware. We invest so much. I am a victim. I'm not a victim. I am. This is one of my what is it? A thorn in my thigh. I invest so much thought into so many different things, as probably I'm sure many other people do. And when you think about like your number one call, as a husband and a father, as a wife and a mother, obviously raising children is like up here. We spend so much time worried about the flipping ball field, getting to the batting cages, stressed out, stressing our children out, and we don't take some time to really invest in stuff like this. And I kick myself for that. So have some grace, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's this book for me is it's eye opening, but you're right. We can talk about the things that we've done, quote unquote, wrong, but it's just for us, we're young as well, so we were in the tail end of this transition as well, and so while we were learning about this new world of interconnectivity internet, social media, technology, the advancements, um, and learning about the good sides of it, we were unfortunate enough to let our kids kind of experiencing that without us putting much guardrails because we didn't know. But yeah, I mean, it's not about beating ourselves up for it. It's just about learning, right? I mean, parenting is hard. I mean, if parenting was easy, books like this wouldn't exist. But it's hard. It's challenging, and he ends that chapter with kind of putting together a little bit of a rites to passage. At the age, I'll just go through it real quick. At age 6, and he uses it as a guide, not as a fact, but at age 6, telling the child that they have a sense of responsibility within the family, where they can start doing household chores and they're no longer looked as a dependent. They were actually a member and a productive member of the family. And then around age 8, then you start experiencing that discover mode. Now you're able to go out and give them a little more responsibility without supervising them. Then you transition to age 10, where you're at he calls it the age of roaming, where now you're actually still going outside, but now instead of just being outside in the front yard, maybe you can run around the whole subdivision. Again, if you know your neighbors, you have the community involvement, you can run around the entire subdivision alone with friends and you're fine. Then you transition to age 12. And I thought this was really interesting. He calls it the age of apprenticeship, where you're starting to look for adults as mentors, but outside of your family. So maybe it's a buddy of yours, your best friend, a neighbor, a teacher, someone who you can look for as a mentor. I think we lost Andrew here, but I'll just continue going. At 14, you start to begin high school age, and you start to maybe work outside, earning an income, transitioning into teenage years, and then 16, you start to drive. You get a really more sense of adulthood, and at 18, you're a legal adult. You can vote. You can take on a little more responsibilities, but you actually have this natural transition that everyone is on board with, because it is this traditional right to guide you into maturity. So I think we lost Andrew, but yeah, great chapter, great 2 chapters, chapter 3 and chapter 4. Next week we'll do chapter 5 and 6. But again, great book so far. Glad everyone is joining us on this journey, and have a great week, and we'll see you next time.